Welcome to the Holborn Assets channel. In this series, we look at major events in the history of economics that help to shape the world we live in today. We only cover 3 events a week, so there's plenty of history we can't look at, but if you think we missed a big one, just leave a comment and we'll look into it for future videos. We also welcome suggestions for any economic or personal finance topics you'd love to know more about. Kwame Nkrumah led Ghana to independence on the 6th of March 1957, becoming the first British colony in Africa to do so. Nkrumah had studied in both the US and the UK and brought his brand of socialism to the newly free country. At that point, Ghana had a very stable economy thanks to many natural resources, such as gold and the biggest cocoa production in the world. Cocoa was indigenous to Mexico, but Ghanaian farmers had been cultivating it since 1878. The industry boomed around the time of independence. However, Nkrumah didn't pass this rise on to the farmers. It was taken off as taxes and invested into a massive industrialization project. He knew that true independence would only come if the country was not reliant on expensive imports. But thanks to mismanagement and corruption, the industrialization was a failure, leaving Ghana with a $1 billion debt and many projects unfinished. However, Nkrumah's importance as a leader of African independence should not be underestimated. Today, the country is once again hoping to achieve rapid industrialization under a project named Ghana Vision 2020, with cocoa and gold still being the backbone of their economy. Scotsman Alexander Graham Bell received a patent for the telephone on the 7th of March 1876, although credit should also go to Johann Philipp Reis and Antonio Meucci for their work before him. Within 30 years, there were 3 million phones in the US alone. Bell's father-in-law, Gardiner Green Hubbard, actually founded the company that became AT&T in 1885, who have gone on to dominate the communications industry for over a century. With a revenue of $160 billion, AT&T are actually the biggest telecommunications company in the world, with Verizon coming in second. In Europe, many of the major networks are born out of the original national service that eventually became privatized. Orange is the old France Telecom, which itself had been part of the post office. The same was true for Germany and the UK. The post offices ran the phone networks. But there was a European ruling in 1990 that public services must have competition. So this led to Orange in France, BT in the UK, and Deutsche Telekom in Germany, who owned T-Mobile. Finding an exact cause of the Great Depression in the 1930s has always been a problem, and the answer, like pretty much everything in economics, is it's complicated and, we don't know for sure. The Wall Street crash of 1929 may have had some impact, but it certainly was not the cause. The warning signs had been around before then. On a global level, there was a lot of debt going around thanks to the First World War. Germany owed reparations money to France and Britain, who in turn had debt with the US. Germany couldn't afford a lot of the reparations, so were also borrowing money from the US. This basically meant that France and Britain were paying America with its own money, which was probably not ideal. The Roaring Twenties had also seen a boom in credit being given, so as soon as the economy stalled, debts were called in and many people couldn't pay. This led to some of the banks folding and then a domino effect as people rushed to withdraw their money before it happened to them. On the 9th of March 1933, Roosevelt passed the Emergency Banking Act, just 5 days after his inauguration. The purpose was to give the federal banks authority to issue currency to local banks with good assets, so they would have enough cash to deal with all legitimate withdrawals. It worked. The public were confident that the banks would have their money, so within 2 weeks, half the money that had been withdrawn during the panic was redeposited with the banks again. So, that was the week. Who knows what events from the last few days will end up being recorded in history as important events that changed the world. Don't forget to subscribe so you can learn more about economic history of the world, as well as see other great videos on managing your money and making investments. See you next time.